Hello, so in this lesson, we're going to be talking about pronoun antecedent agreement. And what this is really just a fancy phrase for saying that the nouns and the pronouns in our writing, they need to match one another. Okay, so before we really jump in, we need to cover the basics, and that is making sure we understand what a noun is. So a noun is a person, place, or thing, right? So the student, Miss Gouget, the school, the desk, right? These are all nouns. Anything that's a person, place, or thing, it's going to be a noun. Pronouns are the words that then replace these nouns, okay? So like he, she, it, they, we, okay? The list kind of goes on. We'll be exposed to some more, but pronouns, what's important to know is that they are the words that replace the nouns, okay? And then the antecedents, they are the nouns that pronouns refer to. So antecedents and nouns, they're going to be used interchangeably throughout this lesson, meaning that I'll sometimes refer back to like the noun, and the antecedent is what that noun also is, right? So ante, that's a prefix that stands for before, okay? And so ante is going to, in this context, mean that the noun that comes before the pronoun is what the antecedent is. Okay, so antecedents are the nouns that pronouns refer to and come before. Okay, so an example of this to kind of make more sense is Sarah ate her lunch. Sarah is the antecedent because she is the noun, right? And then her is the pronoun that is then going to refer to that antecedent. Okay, so Sarah is the antecedent, her is then the pronoun. And we want to make sure that in pronoun antecedent agreement that they agree with one another and that they align and match with one another. So go ahead. Can you try and identify the pronoun and antecedent in this sentence? The dog wagged its tail. Go ahead, identify what the pronoun is. Go ahead and identify what the antecedent or noun in this sentence is. All right, now that you hopefully have a good idea as to what pronoun means and what antecedent means, let's talk about why this matters, okay? So, first things first, and really what all of this boils down to is that this is gonna ensure clear communication, okay? So, it's gonna help your readers understand who or what you're referring to, but it's also gonna prevent confusion in your own writing, right? It's gonna make sure that you understand what you're talking about so that way you can keep who you're talking about or what you're referring to about in order and make sure that it all aligns. Okay. So I just mentioned, right, talking about confusion, making sure that your clarity of your writing is good. Go ahead, think about how you can answer this question. What might happen if pronouns and antecedents don't agree? Okay, and now we're going to move on to rules for pronoun antecedent agreement. So this is going to kind of go over the basics and also give you some practice. So pronouns, this is a rule, right? Pronouns must agree with their antecedents in number. So if the antecedent is singular or plural, that means that the pronoun that follows is going to have to match up, okay? So for example, the student is singular. Therefore, when you use a pronoun, that pronoun also has to be singular, okay? However, right, if you say the teachers, as in multiple, right, that means it's plural, and therefore the pronoun is also going to have to be plural, okay? And then also, it's important to talk about gender, okay? So pronouns must agree with their antecedents in gender. So that means, right, if your antecedent or your noun is masculine, therefore the pronoun must also be masculine. If the antecedent or noun is feminine, therefore the pronoun needs to be feminine. Or there are instances that are specific where it's neutral, okay? And those instances require different sorts of rules. But there is that opportunity for neutrality and for some of these rules to have flexibility. Singular antecedents, so talking about that first rule, making sure that when the antecedent is singular, the pronoun also has to be singular. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to find a good place for me to put my head in this lesson. So, for example, the student forgot his notebook. The student, okay, is singular. Therefore, his, right, is also singular. Now that you have this example, I want you to do this on your own and try and correct this, okay? So we have the singular antecedent, meaning the singular noun, Maria. All right, Maria went to grab their bag. Maria in this context, right, is a feminine name, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys that this is a feminine antecedent, okay? And it's singular. So what pronoun can we put here? All right, so now that you've had hopefully some time to think, right? There, what we have in this original sentence is a plural pronoun. Once again, plural means many. But Maria is singular. So to revise, what we would want to write is Maria went to grab her bag. Therefore, in this sentence, right, we have pronoun antecedent agreement. The pronoun that's being used matches with Maria, which is the noun that the pronoun is describing. Moving on to plural antecedents, we have several different plural pronouns in which you may see and use, but we're going to go ahead and apply the same rule that we did for singular antecedents, okay? So you need to use plural pronouns for plural antecedents, okay? So the trees, this is no longer singular. The trees is multiple, meaning it's plural. Therefore, the pronoun that is used is there, which is a plural pronoun. Okay. So common plural pronouns are they, them, their, theirs, and the list continues. But these are going to be our most common ones. Okay. Let's go ahead, just as we did for singular antecedents, let's try and practice plural antecedents. So here we have this sentence. The dogs, which is plural, chased the cat until it was tired. Okay. This one can be a little tricky and can create some confusion. However, the antecedent of the sentence is the dogs. Therefore, our pronoun that is being used needs to match that. Go ahead, try and revise. And now, once you have tried, we're going to go ahead and release the answer, and that is the dogs chased the cat until they were tired, right? It's the dogs that got tired and gave up, and they are multiple, right? Because it's the dogs ending with an S, so therefore, the pronoun we use needs to also be plural. Moving on to collective nouns as antecedents, there are going to be some tricky instances because English is a very tricky language, where it may create some confusion as to when you are going to use plural or singular pronouns. Okay, so collective nouns can be singular or plural depending on context. Okay, so collective nouns, they are just nouns that name a group of things, of people, of places, maybe in some circumstances, right? But it's a noun, one specific noun that refers to a group. Okay, so some examples in this picture, right? A family, a crowd, a bunch, a loaf, a herd, a pack. Okay, so an example of this sort of flexibility, depending on context, is that the team is proud of its victory. In this instance, the team is one singular noun, and therefore the pronoun it's going to use is its, which is also singular. However, if we go ahead and move over to the family, right, in this instance, we're saying the family are arguing among themselves. Okay, so we're using plural in this instance, and it's really just going to depend on context. So these collective nouns can create some confusion. However, given the context that you have, and the idea of if they are being singular or plural, you'll be able to choose the correct pronoun. So now that I have talked about making sure that your pronouns align in number and that they agree in gender, we're going to go ahead and practice. So the first sentence I have is each student must bring their own pencil. So this one's really tricky because in spoken language and probably in your daily language, you probably hear this. But however, in standard English, this would be incorrect. You would need to say each student must bring his or her own pencil. And that is because there is a plural possessive, meaning that the antecedent must also be plural. However, it's not the students must bring their own pencils, right? It's each student. Therefore, since it's singular in saying each student, right, the pronoun that goes after this antecedent must agree. Okay, so each student must bring his or her own pencil. Let's try the second one. The dog chased the cat until they were tired. Hopefully, this one is a little bit easier considering some of the practice that we've done earlier. All right. So hopefully, right, you were able to catch on to what we learned earlier when it was plural. But in this instance, it is singular. So the dog chased the cat until it was tired. It is the pronoun, and the dog is the antecedent. They are both singular, so we're all in the clear, and that looks good. Now, instead of revising, I want you to go ahead and try and let me move my head. Fill in this blank. What is the pronoun you're going to put using the antecedent? So Miss Gouget wants blank students to succeed. So if Miss Gouget is our antecedent, what pronoun can we put here so that way it works? All right, so hopefully you were able to figure out, right, Miss Gouget, singular and feminine. So we're going to say Miss Gouget wants her students to succeed. All right, so Miss Gouget wants her students to succeed. Her is singular and feminine. Miss Gouget, right, I am one person and I am a female. This next one, the students want blank grades to improve. So what pronoun can we put here that's going to refer back to this plural antecedent? The students want blank grades to improve. All right. Hopefully you had some time to figure it out, but it's the students want their grades to improve. Okay. So this was just some quick, simple practice. And hopefully you have a better understanding on pronoun antecedent agreement, right? But once again, this is just making sure that the nouns and the pronouns that we use are in alignment and they refer to one another in a correct manner. Okay. So pronoun antecedent agreement. We will do continuous work on this in class. And if you ever feel like you're confused on this topic, you can always come back and watch this video to hopefully grab a better understanding. Thank you.